Hey guys, it's Comic Hollywood Studios here. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys tips and tricks to have the best day at Six Flags Great Adventure in spring of 2024. The reason why this video is specifically for the spring season of the park is because not all rides are open quite yet, and there's a few new things that will be coming in the summer, like the new Flash Vertical Velocity, the 50th anniversary celebration, among other things that will definitely change up the way you experience the park. So this guide in particular is meant just for the spring season that applies for spring break all the way through May and all of April. So this should help you guys in order to have the best day at Great Adventure. Park opened much earlier this year than it has in years past. It's been open since the middle of March, and it's definitely a little different this year than it was last year. Last year there was a different selection of rides at this time. Crowds were a little different. The whole park layout was a little different too, so in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys the best tips in order to avoid the crowds, get on the most rides, wait in the least amount of lines, and just have an excellent time at the park. So for starters, when should you get there? The park has been opening at 11 o'clock on some days and 10:30 on other days. Depends on which day of the week it is, and of course, once spring break is over, weekday operations aren't really going to resume until we get towards the summer. So it's mainly going to be Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, with a few Thursdays sprinkled in there. But if the park opens at 10:30, say you're a pass holder, you don't really need to get there right at opening. Typically, most rides aren't going to be completely ready to go and open by park opening, at least in my experience. I've found that you can typically go around a half hour after the park opens. So say park opens at 10:30, arrive at around 11 o'clock. That way you don't have to wait in the lines at the tolls. You don't have to wait in lines at the ticket booths themselves. You can kind of just stroll right in and not really have to wait in any lines. And then you're not really pressured to go run to a ride as soon as the park opens. I find that's a more enjoyable experience. But if you're someone who's coming from far away, maybe you have a day ticket, I would recommend getting there as early as possible just to make sure you can be the first one in the park and get as much time to do as much as you want. Whereas when you're a pass holder, this isn't your only visit to the park. You're going to be there multiple times throughout the year more than likely, so you don't really have to rush around and go crazy to get on rides super fast. So that's why, depending on who you are, you don't have to get there right at opening. Now, an important change for when you do arrive to the park is that parking has been completely changed up. Even the tolls are set up very differently this year, along with the safari as well. Everything is definitely different this year, so I'm going to give you guys a bit of an overview of how that works now. So when you go to the park, of course, if you're entering off 537, you go the normal way. I'm pretty sure the entrance coming from the other side of 537, not the side of 195, is closed, so you're going to have to make that U-turn and come in through the main entrance. But once you go over the first set of speed humps, all the lanes on the right side, so the middle lane and the right lane, those are for Great Adventure, and the leftmost lane is going to direct you towards the Wild Safari, which you can now access from the base camp. It is Safari Off-Road Adventure, meaning that you're in those off-road vehicles, those trucks that were present from 2013 to 2019. They are back, but you don't have to enter from inside the park. You can enter from outside the park at the base camp. But if you are going to Great Adventure, you're going to want to hang more in the rightmost lanes. And all the lanes on the right side of the tolls are speedy parking. I believe the rightmost 4 of them are all speedy parking. So just keep that in mind. If you don't have speedy parking, you're not going to be able to use those. All pass holders do have speedy parking as a benefit, and I have used speedy parking the past 2 times I've gone to the park now, and it works really well. You just stop, scans your plate, gate opens right up, and if you have preferred, you just let the attendant know, who should be right there in the window, that you have preferred, show your pass, they'll give you the little slip, and then you're on your way. Now, getting into the parking lot itself is different. If you are general parking, you're going to go in the same way you used to, nothing really changed there. But if you're preferred, you're going to pass that left-hand turn and keep going straight, almost as if you're going to leave the park. Then you're going to make a left in the very back of the parking lot and ride along the perimeter of the parking lot all the way to the very end. You make a left, and then you enter preferred from the side there. So it's a little different. I think it's definitely better from a traffic safety perspective, where you're not really going to have as much room for accidents as there was in years past. It's definitely a better system, but just keep that in mind so you don't get confused when you do go to the park. Upon actually entering the park, security has not changed at all. When you do get up to the ticket booths and the scanners, all the ones on the left, there are 2 of them. There's a priority lane. That is for Diamond Pass holders and up, and that does include the Legacy members too that fit that description. All the other spots are going to be for anyone, whether you have a ticket, a pass, it doesn't matter, but the priority lanes are over to the left. once you go inside the park, you will immediately notice what rides are and aren't open. So as of right now, the recording of this video, which is April 2nd, currently Frontier Adventures is blocked off, but only Log Flume and Mine Train are closed. To access Medusa and the Safari, you have to walk through Plaza del Carnaval and go around El Toro through there to access those rides. You can't just access them right off Dream Street. Additionally, Green Lantern is not open, but Superman is, so Green Lantern is blocked off over there. And Skull Mountain is also not open quite yet. Plus there are other rides that are still being worked on, like Roaring Rapids, which typically doesn't open until Memorial Day anyway. Skyway is not open quite yet, neither end, meaning the one by Skull Mountain and the one in Frontier Adventures. And Giant Wheel is also not open. Of course, Cyborg is closed as well due to Flash construction. Flash should open at some point in June or July in the summer, and Cyborg will open when Flash opens as well. Now, as for what ride you should head to first, that really does depend on what your priorities are. As of the filming of this video, certain rides are running at lower capacity than they usually would be. Rides like Nitro, Batman, El Toro are running one train, which means that their lines are going to be a little longer than they typically would be. Now this is going to change as time goes on. I imagine Nitro will probably be one of the first rides to be off of one train and be on 2 or 3. They have the other ones ready to go. As far as I know, they just need to be inspected. Then they will be running. But Nitro will definitely get a really long line with one train, and the line isn't going to move that fast. El Toro can typically move its line fairly quickly with one train, but it's still half the capacity of what it would normally be. And the same can be said with Batman. Batman can get a bit of a lengthy line since it's running one train. Medusa is also only running one train, but since Medusa is so far in the back of the park, it's typically not going to have that long of a line. But if it's a crowded day, pretty much every ride is going to have a line, so just keep that in mind. Additionally, if you are interested in riding the Safari, I would probably make that one of your first stops when you go to the park. The Safari has been tending to get a really long line. You can probably wind up waiting around an hour for it on most visits. It's a very popular attraction, and since it's the trucks now, you're not just driving through anymore, so you do actually have to wait in a queue. So I'd definitely recommend going to Safari first if that is one of your high priorities. Of course, it depends on how crowded the park is that day, but if it is a bit of a crowded day, I would say go to the Safari first. It's a really unique experience, and you definitely don't want to miss it if it's one of your only times going to the park. And when compared to years past, there have been quite a few quality of life improvements with regard to the layout of the park that really does change how easy it is to get to certain rides. So for those of you unaware, Dream Street has been opened up now. There used to be a building that blocked off the kind of natural straight path that would go past the carousel towards El Toro. That is now opened up, so you don't have to go through the arcade or through the boardwalk anymore. You can just walk straight down, which really makes it a lot easier to get to rides like El Toro. And in addition to that, there is a new path between the El Toro area and the area by King Ka, so you don't have to walk all the way around to get between the two rides. It is a very quick walk between El Toro and King Ka. So if you really wanted to, you could leave your stuff in a locker for, say, El Toro, walk over to King Ka, ride that, come back and get your stuff out of the El Toro locker and have no issues. There still are not any double-sided lockers on the rides that require lockers. Just as a reminder, El Toro, King Ka, Jersey Devil, and Joker all require lockers for any loose articles. Even if you have zippered pockets, you have to put everything in a locker. From my understanding, some of these rides, like El Toro, should be getting double-sided lockers later on in the season, but as of right now during the spring, that is not the case, so just keep that in mind. As for the food situation, it really does depend on the day that you go. I've seen multiple different restaurants opened and then closed on my next visit. Staffing is always a bit of a difficulty early on in the year like this. We saw this last year too, where you're typically going to see pretty long lines for food since there's not many food places open due to the fact that they're a little short on staff. This is before the international workers come in, which winds up being a big help in fulfilling staffing requirements for the park. So as of right now, they are short on staff, and that does go to the ride operations department of the park as well. So you can expect to see maybe less operators on rides than there normally would be, and that'll be resolved as we get closer to the summer, but just keep that in mind. If you are looking to get food, I would highly recommend using the mobile ordering system on the Six Flags app if it's available on the day you go. Sometimes it's not available, though if you are looking to just get food and hope you don't have to wait super long, I would go to a place that has relatively simple options, something like Primo's, for example, where it's pretty much one or two different things on the menu and there's not much customization. That means it's going to be a much faster process to get food. My most recent visit, we were able to get Primo's once we got up there in less than a minute. It was really quick and efficient since there's not much customization there. Meanwhile, if you go to a place like the Pub, for example, you're probably going to be waiting a lot longer since there's a lot more stuff on the menu, a lot more customization options. So just keep that in mind, that out of everything, you're probably going to be waiting in the longest line for food. Something else the park has been doing, not every day, but on quite a few days, is what they call a soft closing, where say the posted closing time for the park is 8 o'clock. The park won't actually close at 8 o'clock. They'll kind of start winding down operations at 8 o'clock, and the park would officially close at say 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Again, this isn't every day, but sometimes you will see rides running past park closing, and that's not even just because they have a line that they're trying to get through. Sometimes they just keep the rides open a little bit longer. Depends on the day and the crowds. Typically, if it's a really crowded day, they'll kind of extend it out a little bit longer to give people a little bit more time in the park. So just keep that in mind. Again, completely depends on the day you go. It is not every day. But overall, just taking another look at the ride selection that you have available right now, you have Superman, which is currently running one train, so the line will be a little bit longer than usual. King Ka is on 2 trains, which means that the line is going to move a bit faster than some other attractions. El Toro is on 1 train, Medusa is on 1 train, Mine Train is not open, Green Lantern also is not open. Joker has been running multiple trains, but they have changed the way that ride operates a little bit, so the capacity isn't quite as high as it used to be. Skull Mountain is not open. Jersey Devil has been tending to run 2 trains. Nitro is currently on 1 train. That's probably going to change very soon. Batman is also on 1 train. And that's pretty much all the major coasters in the park other than Harley Quinn and Dark Knight, which are running at their usual capacities. Other things like flat rides, Skyscreamer typically does wind up having a pretty lengthy line because it's a very central ride in the park. It has a pretty good location, so a lot of people are going to go there. I've noticed that Justice League and Wonder Woman haven't had as long of lines as they normally do. That's because the path between Cyborg and the main entrance area is closed due to Flash's construction. So in order to get to Justice League, you have to walk all the way through Movie Town. So it's definitely a little out of the way now. And I have noticed it has made it have a little bit of a shorter line, and the same could be said for Wonder Woman. Of course, Wonder Woman is still a very popular attraction, but the line hasn't been as long as it usually is. So keep that in mind if you're looking to get on those 2 attractions. But other than that, what I would say you should definitely look to do the most is prioritize which rides you really want to ride, while also taking into account the capacity and what the lines might be like later on. If Jersey Devil is running any less than 2 trains, you should probably go there first. Even with 2 trains, it's going to have a bit of a longer line compared to other attractions. Each train only holds 12 people, which means 2 trains is 24, which is less than El Toro or Nitro on 1 train. If you are looking to get that side of the park done first, probably go to Jersey Devil first, then hit Nitro, Batman, and work your way across the park. Alternatively, you could start off at either El Toro or Superman since they've had lower capacity as of late. Hit Medusa while you're over by El Toro. You could even hit the Safari over there, or you could start the Safari and work your way back. There's a lot of different routes you can take in order to maximize your time at the park and wait in as little lines as possible. But typically, the first hour or 2 hours or so of park opening is when you're going to see the shortest lines for rides, but that can definitely fill up very quick, so take advantage of that time as much as you can. And with all that being said, that's going to about do it for my guide to Six Flags Great Adventure in the spring of 2024, how you can have the best time at the park. If you guys have any specific questions about the park as of right now, leave them down in the comments below. Of course, a lot of things change day by day, so some of this information may wind up being a little outdated by the time you see it. I'll have a pinned comment below updating all the information as it comes available. But if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more Six Flags Great Adventure content coming soon to Hollywood Studios. Goodbye, guys.